Throughout his decade-spanning career, he had a number of top 20 albums and singles that were performed by the different personas he adopted: Ziggy Stardust, the Thin White Duke, and the kimono-wearing Aladdin Sane. Each one of these fearless phases in the 70s sparked a number of subgenres including punk, new wave, goth rock, the new romantics, and electronica. Few pop icons reinvented themselves as wholeheartedly and artistically as David Bowie, and with such advancing, overarching impact.
Sorry, what you were saying?
I was saying...
All right, Mum.
Right, there we are. I was saying as soon as you're out of that protected area, you're a hero. I mean, the kid's waiting
Come in.
outside the studio. Come in.
We're not doing anything important.
Just an interview.
I thought you'd never stop blowing that horn.
Another glass of milk?
Oh, that's...
You said Heroes is a pretty love song.
Yeah.
It says, we could be a hero for one day.
Yes.
We could be heroes for one.
Yeah.
Do you want people to feel like that just for one day? You said you don't feel yourself a hero.
No, no.
People make you a hero.
No, they don't.
For them.
No, they don't. They don't make me a hero. I know I'm not a hero.
What is the power of still going on?
It isn't.
Doing it. Doing...
No.
Making records, selling.
Yeah. That's work.
Just work.
Yeah. Work and a way of life for me.
Mm-hmm. In an interview a long time ago, you said, I could be a Hitler in England. I could make this country very big if I want to.
I don't think I said I would make this country very big.
Let me see what you said a second. I could have been a hero. I could make this country a great country.
Oh, I don't know where you read that, but that's not true.
Rolling Stone interview.
No, but that's not true.
It's a translation.
I have the feeling that...
Doesn't matter.
After the first row.
I'll just take off one half. Right.
To come back to that, the new album, the music to me sounds really a little bit, I hope that's the right English word, alienated. So I'm very surprised.
Alienated from what?
From oh, okay, from my world.
From your world?
Yeah,
Okay.
Right. Can you understand?
Because the process was rarely the same for any two tracks.
Isn't it surprising that in these days of young kids buying or being into punk and new wave and all that stuff, that they buy your album and this kind of music in these amounts?
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's... you're
What can I
surprised-
say?
No, you're surprised too. I mean,
I'm delighted. But I'm very presumptuous because I'm also very biased. I consider that what we're doing is also part of a new wave or a new old wave.
You think the sale of the album, for instance, has still a lot to do with the hype around you?
I've not seen any hype.
No?
No. Yes, what is it? That's better. He's in the other room.
Hang on.
If you got a name that big as David Bowie, isn't it very easy to be a very big push on somebody's
I think that's a pretty naive sort of attitude, don't you think? If it wasn't good, it wouldn't sell.
You think you're powerful?
You're power crazy, aren't you?
I am.
People write about you.
Well, Lord, no. Dave, the same question about 10 times if it's 10 different people. One's very tempted to make up new answers because I get very bored very quickly. And I feel a bit like a parrot by about the 5th interview.
Right,
and something very sort of sterile and sort of rather mouldy by about the 10th interview. And it seems to have come to much more attention since I said that.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, we were talking about power, and you say we were so hung up on power.
No, that's not power. That's very good social observation.
Yeah, well,
don't mind me saying so.
No, that's not power. But
media has the power.
Right.
I have maybe the.
But that's the media always stick to you.
I have the observation. Oh yes, well it's their combination and their entanglement of what is and what isn't and what they would have be, that provides the people with some fairly distorted informational viewpoints.
Well, just come back to this for 1 second.
Yeah.
I mean, you can deny it or not, but the thing that 100,000 kids are treating you as a hero, reading every line you say.
I don't think so. You see, I think that's a generalisation. A kid doesn't go out and live his life around me. He goes out and he might buy my records when they come out. He may adopt my hairstyle, but it does very much end there, you know. I mean, I've never seen with any rock idol kids that have been so totally intoxicated by the thing that they live out that thing as their myth. I think you're carrying it a bit far. It doesn't really work like that. And don't tell people it works like that, because it's not that way.
I want to hear that from you.
Well, you just heard it.
It just must be dazzling to see people direct their life towards what you do or something.
I don't think that's at all the case.
I see something the other day where you were worth like $800 million.
$900 million.
900 it
yes.
was. Is that true?
I'm waiting for the check. It's the most...
Everybody who knows you is
everybody
is digging up in your backyard saying, where is he keeping it?
I've had so many new friendships since that article appeared. I can't tell you. I feel so beloved everywhere I go. It's absolute garbage. Complete and utter crap.
Okay, 800 million.
But you're promoting them quite as strong as they're being promoted.
But you're already suggesting that the history is known and is carved in stone. That's not necessarily true.
Well,
I think the threads of history are so entangled, they start to
formed Queen before, I mean, I can say this, you know, now, before sort of David Bowie had done anything. Well, number one, I don't dream about David Bowie at all. It's just, and to actually dream about making a song with him is beyond my capabilities. It's just that we were friends, and sometimes when different artists come together at the right time, and if the characters are right, that's more important than anything.
What happened with David Bowie, with Pressure?
Nothing. We just went into the studio, did the song, and out it came. It was no big...
No, but I mean, wasn't there this whole drama about him taking his name off of it or wanting to not be...
No, that was something else. He did sort of like backing vocals on one of my songs that was on the album then. That's not Under Pressure, that's another one.
Right.
And when it came to being released, I mean, he didn't like what he did. That was like, you know, asshole tells me right at the tail end when the thing is just about to come out. So anyway, that's you know, artistic license. He just didn't like his voice right when it was about to come out. And I said, fine. I said, it's quite easy. All I do is erase his vocal, and out it came. It wasn't like he didn't do a very in-depth vocal at all. It was just a background. It was just background vocals. So, I mean, he just didn't.
Do you think it was petty? I mean, do you think it was unnecessary?
Whatever. I think it was unnecessary, but I mean...
Are you not speaking to each other anymore?
Always speaking. It's just that we're in different parts of the world, and... No, I'm not one of those bitchy queens that you like to... No. It's just... No, he's all right. He's okay.
How did you happen to work with him in the first place?
Well, I mean, we were friends from a long time back, and we were in Montreux in Switzerland. We own a studio there, so we were working on it, and he lives there. He just happened to be there, and he kept coming to the studio, listening to our tracks, and we were jamming to some of his old songs and things. And then one day one night we were having dinner, and after that we were going back into the studio to carry on with the session. And it just happened. He just said, oh, why don't we just fool around and get something started and see what happens? And, you know, we started playing on the piano, and the rest of the band were there, and we started putting something down, and Under Pressure started to build.
Therapeutic. No, you know, some people thought, there's a lady who said, I don't know if I'd want to meet him. He would make me very nervous. I have a feeling he's into black magic and that sort of thing. And other people see you as just a very skillful performer who changes from time to time from one thing to another.
Yeah. Well, both of that is...
All of the above? You'll buy that? Are you any relation to that?
I think she pretends I'm not hers. No, she doesn't talk much, you know, she doesn't... I don't think we really... We were never that close, particularly. We have an understanding.
Yeah. Could I ever do a walk-on in your show? I've got to know what it feels like to stand on stage in a big production thing like that.
In a
production?
production?
Screw up your...
Well, if I had a part for you, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, somewhere someone is writing a learned paper in a university called something like Jagger and Bowie, Prophets of a Pluralistic Society, and, you know, this... Prophets of Doom or something. Do you read this stuff? And you see critics write very elaborate intellectual analyses of your work and other people's. Does this put you to sleep?
The bad ones.
You know, all right. It occurred to me, having watched MTV over the last few months, that it's a solid enterprise with it, and it's got a lot going for it. I'm just floored by the fact that there's so few black artists featured on it. Why is that?
I think that we're trying to move in that direction. We want to play artists that seem to be doing music that fits into what we want to play for MTV. The company is thinking in terms of narrow casting.
That's evident. It's evident in the fact that the only few black artists that one does see are on about 2:30 in the morning or to around 6. Very few are featured predominantly during the day.
No, that's a...
I'll say that over the last couple of weeks these things have been changing, but it's a slow process.
I know, it's funny, I think people have different perceptions. When you wind up watching, let's say you watch an hour or 2 or even 3 a day, people somehow come away with different ideas about what we are doing. We don't have any kind of day parting for anything, let alone a black artist day parted out of what would be, quote, prime time. We don't have that.
Because one sees a lot there's one black station on television that I keep picking up. I'm not sure which station it's on, but there seem to be a lot of black artists making very good videos that I'm surprised aren't used on MTV.
Well, of course, also we have to try and do what we think not only New York and Los Angeles will appreciate, but also Poughkeepsie or Midwest. Pick some town in the Midwest that will be scared to death by Prince, which we're playing, or a string of other black faces.
That's
and black
very
music.
Interesting. Isn't that interesting?
You know, we have to play the music that we think an entire country is going to like, and certainly we're a rock and roll station now. The question would be asked, well, should, since we're in New York, should PLJ play, the Isley Brothers? Well, you and I might say, yeah, because we have grown up in an era when the Isley Brothers mean something to me, and so do the Spinners, even way after the Isley Brothers. But what does it mean to a 17-year-old? Well, if you talk on the phones to these guys like I did when I was in radio, it's
Well,
scary.
I tell you what it means. I tell you what maybe the Isley Brothers or Marvin Gaye means to a black 17-year-old. And surely he's part of America as well.
No question, no question. And that's why you're seeing those things.
Do you not find that it's a frightening predicament to be in?
Yeah, but less so here than in radio.
And is it not? Well, no, don't say. Well, it's not me, it's them. Is it?
No,
Is
well,
it not possible that it should be a conviction of the station and of other radio stations? To be fair, it does seem to be rampant through American media. Should it not be a challenge to try and make the media far more integrated in music, especially of anything in musical terms?
Absolutely, I think it's happening because white music and white musicians are now starting to play more than ever, more than they have lately, let's say in the last 10 years, what black artists have been into. And now, hopefully, the lines are going to start to blur, and when we play a band like ABC, well, there's white and black kids who are enjoying it, and all of a sudden, well, it's a little bit easier for a white kid to understand it. The fact is, quite frankly, I could even point you towards a letter in the new issue of The Record, the magazine The Record, responding to an article by Dave Marsh, that this kid just ranted about what he didn't want to see on MTV.
Well, that's his
and
problem.
in no uncertain terms. Well, what I'm saying, though, is that there's, as you say, there's certainly a lot of black kids and white kids who may want to see black music. There's a ton of them who are, it's not like it was in '67 where you say, yeah, I'm not into that, you know, but you are, yeah. Now it's, you're into that, I don't like you. And that's scary, and we can't just turn around and go, well, look, this is the right way. We can only teach, I think, a little bit at a time.
Interesting. Okay, thank you very much.
Does that make sense? Valid point?
I understand your point of view.
Okay. Believe me, it's a tough situation.
I just thought, because it's going to be aired sooner or later, it's just interesting, and I wanted to know what the response would be there.
There's never been any kind of racist, like, we don't want to play black artists, period. We want to play rock and roll.
I just know that from...
Also, it's also where cable is. It's none of the urban markets have been wired yet. It's all suburban markets. So we had a choice between an R&B station or AOR station. We went with the AOR station. Hopefully, we'll have an R&B station.
It's foremost on my mind, of course, because of the guys, especially I've been working with recently, who are very hostile to the media. In no small way. I mean, they really think that it's a bad deal at the moment, and it hasn't been like this in years. But on the other hand, I feel positive about it because I see another swing happening. There is a new thing happening.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you can understand that if you make a left-hand turn and say, well, we've been playing rock and roll, but now we're going to play, you know, the Commodores, and we're going to play all these bands that black radio, let's say, is playing.
Yeah, but let's face it, somebody laid down the ground.
But do you pray to mountains and to trees and to those physical manifestations, or to some kind of spirit?
I don't think I would like to get into that over a 20-minute interview.
You wouldn't?
When I come back to England, I would talk to you about that, yes.
All right.
At length.
We were talking about films and filmmaking. One of the people I presume you would have liked to have worked with would have been Piero Pasolini.
Would I?
Well, I've read that in odd interviews you've given to people, you found his work exciting, per se, rather than per me. You are in that kind of privileged position, though, aren't you, David, where you don't have to make any kind of decision like that, do you?
Oh, I have to make as many decisions as anybody else every day. Yes, I do have to make decisions.
But
I consider myself fairly responsible.
I presume, I wasn't doubting your own self-responsibility, but I'm saying you are better equipped than most people to make that kind of firm decision about your own future. I will do A, I will do...
That's not what you said at all.
That's what I meant. If it's not what I said, it's what I meant, right?
Yes, I can make firm decisions.
You know, also, since you've been away, or quite recently, the newspapers have been having a bit of a bash at your mother, and saying that she's a bit tearful from time to time, and that she's suffering a certain amount of anguish, and that she doesn't hear from you an awful lot. Is that eyewash or is it real?
That's really my own business.
And that's how it's going to stay, is it?
Yes. I see you still have a keen sense of rumour, Russell.
We won't talk about Angie, we won't talk about your mother, we won't talk about Zoe, we'll talk about extraterrestrial things.
Let's not plan it. The worst thing we can do is plan a conversation.
She was a prostitute. That was a Spanish prostitute. That was a Spanish Catholic prostitute. Yes, we're really getting to see life down there. What do I think of Madrid so far? It's terribly crowded with people. They're very friendly people, aren't they? It's the kind of place where you just have to tie your shoelace up. I'm sorry? It's obviously. Yes, of course. And
Yeah, now?
here is the famous.
No.
Yes.
Not even an estimate. Not even an estimate. I don't believe it.
That was the very famous Barbara of Seville, who no longer wishes to.
Don't say you dare come to me.
That's right. I'll give you an autograph if you'll give me a nice pint of draft. No, he just wants to take an order. Well, that's very sensible of him. Well, Pete, now that we've got rid of the media, What do you really think about MTV?
Well, I'm not sure these days. Ratings are falling, you know.
Oh, it's tragic.
Great, it's terrific. I was also surprised to find that you're a big fan of Frank Sinatra.
I'm not sure about that. That's sort of been
I'm going to say
he's good, isn't he? But he's
not your image, really.
We have all the patience in the world. We don't want to be overnight. We've all been overnight something or others, you know.
Do you feel that it can be more adventurous musically, though?
Well, it enables you. I mean, in a small situation, you can read. You can actually see your audience. You know, you can read them more quickly and more easily, and you can also
memorize their phone numbers.
When they're vocal about something that you do. I mean, when they yell at you, when somebody at the back
yell at
yells,
you can yell back.
You can hear it. You can find them. You can go out after them. I mean, it's just the interplay in general.
You can find them, go out after them, and thump them.
Prompting a guest appearance from another legend he would later tour with.
Is it strange to dance so slowly? Is it strange to dance so slowly?
One night he'd say, I have a great idea. Just before you're finishing your set, I appear at the back and I come on and we sing one of my songs and you just slowly fade away and your musicians fade away and mine come on, which effectively deprives people of, you know, saying goodbye to me, if you like. So I thought that was very, very cagey. So I eventually left the tour and received enormous bad press for it, and he never spoke to me again. You have to worship at the temple of David when you become involved. He was a fascinating artist, 1970, 71, 72, but not now.
To tell you what happened, he came to soundcheck in Scotland after about 4 gigs, did his soundcheck, and got in a car and went back to London, and that's the last we ever heard or saw.
You get tired of being outrageous. If that gets I don't think I'm outrageous at all.
Are you there, David Bowie?
Yes.
Last time we met on the air, you were sitting in this studio at this side, and you had a very elegant earring hanging from either your left or right ear. I can't remember. Do you remember that?
How are you, Russell? It's nice to see you.
But I'm very happy to present to you this golden record for your tremendous LP, Low. Well, let's take it this way. I want to look at it. Well, you want to look at it. All right, take it.
Well, don't ask me that question. I cannot believe you asked me that question.
No? Why not?
Do you believe you actually asked me that question?
You were really the point man for challenging a lot of social attitudes and sexual attitudes in the 70s.
Oh, rubbish.
Now, you've just finished making the film called The Man Who Came to Earth.
Fell to Earth.
Fell to Earth, I beg your pardon.
Critics have claimed that you are more ideas. You are the bossy egomaniac.
You describe yourself as ordinary. What adjective would you use? David Bowie.
Ideas. Ideas.
We're talking about films and filmmaking. One of the people I presume you would have liked to have worked with would have been Piero Pasolini.
Would I?
Well, look, there's a million things I could ask you, and I can't go on. Well, I don't think... No, before, there's one question, David. Don't you fear of it anymore.
Well, I'm reluctant to make the judgment about what category you fit into, and I'm hoping that you would say, yes. Oh, no, I wouldn't be that pretentious, but maybe you have a feeling yourself.
That in the 60s you felt that bands had a really immediate feel. Do you think that you've managed to recreate that?
No.
Okay, now, what I wanted to say, as soon as you're outside of the protected area...
Yeah, I got the question.
You're
No. No.
Do you know that the pop scene at this end, the pop world has changed somewhat since you left?
No. No.
Have you heard of the Bay City Rollers?
Yes.
Well, you know that they're appealing to a kind of large, mass hysterical audience of young people who wave a lot of stuff around. Now, I wonder what kind of audience you're going to come back to face?
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm thinking in a kind of way you may have to create a whole new scene for yourself.
No.
Do you want to be understood? You know what I mean? Ziggy Stardust
Absolutely
was
nothing to understand. I mean,
was concerned with famine in the world and so on, and prophecies of the world running out.
A hero.
What is the power still going on?
It isn't
doing it. Doing.
No.
Making records, selling.
Yeah. That's work.
Just work.
Yeah.
What are you looking for at this moment? What are you searching for?
What's
liquid.
it?
Liquid.
Treetop apple juice.
Is it good? Would you spit some across the satellite?
No. How calculated is any of this? That's bollocks. Bollocks.
I can.
Oh, well, it doesn't have to be that one-sided, does it?
Well.
Aren't you going to contribute?
A little bit, yes. I'm worming away by expensive satellite. No.
Okay.
Very excited that you're here with us this evening. Marvellous band, a marvellous new album that we're going to be hearing.
I had a good night's viewing planned, so we run a bit late. So
Do you want me to
I might have to
rush this? Get it through.
Yeah, let's get this done.
Okay.
Well, David, we're coming towards the end of our all too brief conversation.
Oh, that's a shame.
I think that's going to be enough because I can't go on. I just can't go on battling.
Okay, I'm gonna have to pick some easier songs. I'm never gonna get through half of these. Let's try Fanny.
Something you can say about the... Have some comment from you, Mr. Bowie? Get him out here. Here he is.
Mr. Bowie maintains his innocence. He's never been arrested before in his life, and I think it's quite obvious, a man of his reputation, that if he were in fact involved in drugs in any way, he would have been arrested numerous times.
Could we... What's your reaction to the treatment that you have received in this city?
I thought I was treated very fairly. I thought everybody acted like gentlemen. Of course.
How do you feel about the police?
I just said.
Well, specifically about the police.
They were very, very kind, very courteous.